When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence. Whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.
We are back with the TwinSpires jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with Darin Zoccali, and we've got Nick Tammaro again, becoming a regular here on the jury and the roundtable. And we'll be talking Travers Day. We've got Del Mar Racing as well, and I'm back in Louisville, Kentucky after 3 weeks of travel with TwinSpires. It's very cold in the office, so apologies for wearing this Patriots jacket. It's what I'm working with today. Sorry, Darin.
Giants have their number. No complaint here.
I know. But hey, you know who has both of our number this year, I think, are the Texans. They're projected to win more than both of our teams. So
I think everybody has the Giants number this year, but we'll move on from that conversation.
Let's move over to racing and talk some Saratoga starting off. And Darin, I'll go with you. Tell me your best bet of the weekend where you're playing that at Saratoga.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great card of racing. Fantastic how even some of these undercard races came up. But my best bet is actually going to come in the Alan Jerkin. I'm going to go against Bookham Dano here. Just the way that this race shapes up on paper and the effort that I saw from Prince of Monaco in his return to the races. It's hard not to be infatuated with the amount of ground that he made up. I know through an insanely fast pace, but isn't he going to get a wild pace scenario once again here with a lot of speed signed on, a lot of horses that want to be forward? And even if some of these horses are not the fleetest of foot early, where they're not full-blown speedballs, you have enough horses here that want to kind of be in the same spot. And when you have that happen, I think it forces a pretty quick tempo. And I think Prince of Monaco, who had a really tough start, doesn't necessarily have to be that far behind either, is going to have a lively pace scenario in front of him. I think he's going to work out a good trip here from this middle position. And yeah, I like him quite a bit. I know Flavian Pratt is going to switch and ride domestic product, but he's going to ride for Chad Brown each and every chance he gets. And I respect domestic product, and I'm going to be including him quite a bit in here. Respect, obviously, Bookham Dano as well. But I think Prince of Monaco is live off that huge effort in the Woody Stevens.
It's a tricky race, but I'm with you on fading Bookham Dano. I'll talk about that in the next segment, but I'll move it over to Nick. What is your best bet this week?
Yeah, so staying at 7/8 at Saratoga, I went with Gun Pilot in the 11th, the Forgo. I've been looking forward to this horse running back from the True North. I felt like there was a pretty distinct track profile on Belmont Day, especially early on in the card. I thought it was advantageous to be inside, and he was outside the whole way. He was chasing. He never really got into a comfortable spot. The concern is that he didn't fire the way he did in the Churchill Downs on Derby Day, but he horse seen some really strong effort at his best. I think if he's able to run back to anything close to that Derby Day effort, I could see him being very tough in here. We're going to get a good price as well. It's a competitive field. I'm certainly willing to take on a horse like Mulligan, who's the 8-5 morning line favorite and is going to face way more adversity than he ever has at any point in his career. But as we see Gun Pilot pulling away in deep stretch of the Churchill Downs, I'm hopeful for a similar trip. I'm not certain it's going to happen with him breaking from the rail, but I could warm up to him the most of anybody in this race in terms of where they're going to be price-wise. And so I like Gun Pilot quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he fares in the Forgo.
Darin, I know you're going to talk Mulligan in our fade section, and I've got another horse I'm eyeing in this as well. So I'll move it over to the big race, the Travers Stakes on Saturday. And I'm going with Sierra Leone, who's the fourth choice on the morning line. Very excited to see that. And this is a horse that has been the post time favorite in 4 of his last 5 starts, on a 3-race losing streak right now, but stretching back out to 1.25 miles. We have a lot of speed signed on here. Torpedo Anna is going to go to the front, Fierceness, Door Knock. So I'm looking for this late closer. I think we'll get the right pace set up here. Hopefully stays straight in the stretch run. And I'm looking for him to get back to the winner's circle. He's too good and too expensive to not get back after losing 3 straight. So that's my best bet, Sierra Leone. Maybe 5-1 at post time. I think Torpedo Anna is going to be a very popular choice, of course, being the lone filly in the field. Door Knock, I don't know about. Maybe not going to be the post time favorite. Fierceness, going to be interesting to see what price we get there too, but I'm going Sierra Leone.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk more about it when I get to my what else and go through the pace dynamics. I mean, my problem with him is going to be the problem until he proves me wrong. He just finds new ways or this different variations of the same way to lose races. He might be the most talented 3-year-old. I don't know if we're ever going to know because he can't run straight in the stretch. He leans on other horses. He drifts out. He lugs in. Last time they actually put him on the rail in the stretch, which I thought was a pretty good move because maybe it kept him in a spot where he wasn't going to lug in, but he still couldn't go by Fierceness. And I thought he's gotten a pretty honest enough setup in each of his last 3 races where he still has not been able to win. So that's my ongoing concern with Sierra Leone. What's it going to take? It's going to take him to run straight in the stretch, and he's got to prove to me that he could actually do that.
He's breaking from post 2, same post as the Derby, finished a nose second in that race. So I'm hoping maybe with this draw, a little bit better run here, but we'll see. And I'll turn it to Nick because you have the fade in this race. So you're fading Door Knock. Tell us why.
Yeah, look, it seems like a flimsy reason, but I've just never been much of a Dornick guy. Now, I have warmed him a little bit in his last couple of starts. He's really shown some tenacity in both the Belmont and the Haskell, which is nice to see because this division was badly lacking consistency, really of any type. I think the only thing we've seen consistently is Sierra Leone find creative ways to lose. But this is a horse that really dug in gamely in the Belmont. Looked like Mindframe was going to go by him. He doesn't. It's not the most picturesque first furlong of that stretch drive with him on the wrong lead. But once he was righted and he hugged the inside, he loves the rail. So he really kicked on. We saw him do something similar in the Haskell. My problem is that, this is a horse that you could have gotten at a big price in the Belmont and a nice price in the Haskell. There's no reason to take him as the favorite in the Travers. I'm not certain he's going to end up the favorite. I do think David Aragona is the best morning line maker around, did what he was supposed to do by making him the favorite and kind of let the public sort it out. There's going to be a big contingent that backs Torpedo Anna. There's going to be plenty of support for Fierceness as well. And I'll say that in addition to you, Ashley, all of the people that I seem to speak to love Sierra Leone. So I'm not going to be surprised if he ends up close to favoritism as well, because this is really an embraceable spot for him, given the way they figure to run in the opening half mile or so. But I would be willing to fade Dornick. The other thing that has to enter the conversation, and I know it won't really come to top of mind for a lot of people, but Danny Gargan's 0 for 12 at Saratoga, and only one of them is finished in the money. So his barn is very cold right now. He's winning races elsewhere, but that's a concern. He had the favorite in the last race yesterday. Granted, it was a first-time starter, but a lot of times those are kind of the slump busters. The horse didn't run a step, so I'd be a little concerned at this point backing any of his horses with too much aggression. And I'm happy to take a swing against Dornick as the favorite or close to it in the Travers.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to jump in because I agree, and I think expanding on Nick's point, Dornock has certainly shown tenacity in his last couple of starts and being able to will his way to victory. But I always get a little bit skeptical when they do it against the same horse twice in a row, where both times it looked like that horse was going to go by. Obviously, in the Belmont Stakes, Mindframe drifted out, lugged in. That aided Dornock for sure. And then in the Haskell, he put a half a length on Dornock. And I'm just wondering, is Mindframe the type of horse that once he gets into that spot, he's just a little bit goofy? He's going to pull himself up. He's going to wait on horses. I know he didn't do it in his earlier races, but let's be honest, he was just a country mile better than what he was running against in those days. When he faces quality competition, is that what he's going to do? And is that making Dornock look a little bit better than he really is? At a short price, I think you could take that angle and play against him.
Well, I know you have more to talk about the pace scenario of this race later, so let's go back to the Forgo Stakes and talk Mulligan.
Yeah, so talking about what Nick mentioned, look, I respect the way that Mulliken has certainly run the last couple of races. He's run faster. He's gotten very good. This effort that you're going to see here on the screen is one that certainly I thought was impressive. And I get it. It's not the best division, it looks like right now. In terms of the older sprinters, some of these horses have come out of allowance races out of nowhere, but his effort here in the Nehru is strong. He ran a good time. The speed figures came back good. I'm not taking anything away from that, but the water's still getting deeper here. Baby Yoda can jump up with a monster race, especially at Saratoga at any point. I completely agree with Nick on Gun Pilot, who maybe just sort of might have bounced off a big effort in the True North and faced a little adversity and a little bit of a bias that day. And I think there's a couple others in here that can jump up and run big as well. And like Nick mentioned, the horse is going to run into some more adversity than he has in the past. So at a short price, I'm definitely willing to take a shot against Mulliken, especially when it comes to the multi-race exotics.
Yeah, I actually really like Cagliostro here,
Yeah,
cutting back in distance. And, talking about a cold barn, we also have a hot barn here with Sherry DeVoe, and Jose Ortiz doing really well, as well paired up with Sherry DeVoe. So that's going to be my pick in this race. But I could see it going a few ways too. So, well, I'll take it over to the Allen Jerkins. This is a 7 furlong sprint at Saratoga. My fate is number 8, Bookham Dano at 7-2. Now, he's 2 for 2 from today's distance and has a win in his lone start at Saratoga. But as you already talked about, Darin, Prince of Monaco, in the Woody Stevens, he had a poor start. He was pinched back and then rallied late, finished half a length behind Bookham Dano in that race. I think we'll have a much better effort in this particular spot. And then, we have a couple of runners that are cutting back in distance. Domestic Product coming off a 7.5 length win in the Dwyer at a mile, now going to race 7 furlongs. We also have Timberlake cutting back, and then Jefferson Street, a really strong closing kick, but also just finished second to world record, who wired the Amsterdam. So this competition just seems a little too tough for Bookham Dano, in my opinion. He's moving back up in class. And again, with Prince of Monaco having a troubled trip in the Woody Stevens, I'm looking for a bounce back effort here. And I just don't think it's going to be Bookham Dano's day.
He's the kind of horse that I think you could take a swing against. I mean, he's not, any kind of short price by any means, but he did get an excellent ride from Irad in the Woody Stevens, and came back with a very workmanlike effort in the Jersey Shore. I'll tell you, one of the things I kind of thought about this race on the topic of Bookham Dano is, why are you going to be in a big rush to take him at 3-1 or 7-2 when the horse he beat by a nose is going to be 5 times the price, roughly? So I thought Little Knee on the outside was a little dangerous and deserves some consideration as well. They're going to go quickly early. They're not going to go nearly as fast as they did in the Woody Stevens. No races go as fast as they did in the Woody Stevens. That was just a suicide pace. But fun race. I'm really looking forward to it and seeing how it shakes out. Obviously, we all have tough decisions to make. Nobody's decision was harder than Flavian Pratt, who rode 4 of these horses to victories in the past and had to make a choice.
All right. Well, Darin, let's talk promos and tournaments before we move on to our next segment.
Yeah, obviously a lot going on. We have Breeders' Cup Challenge races this weekend, and we are going to focus at Saratoga for that. We could actually get a double dip at Saratoga. So you got 2 different offers here. You have the 15% profit boost on the full card there. So take a look at that. You can increase your winnings if you connect and you're opted in. Obviously, there are the ballerina, I believe, is the win and you're in race, but we give it for the whole card, the profit boost. So it kind of expands upon that. And then we also have the Summer Selected Money Back. The Summer Selected Money Back is going to incorporate 4 races at Saratoga on Saturday, including a lot of these races that we talked about, the Jerkins, the Forego, obviously the Travers. I believe we have 4 races on the card that are going to be eligible for the money back. So you can kind of double dip, where you get your insurance if the horse runs second or third, and if you win, you can get the profit boost. So you got a little bit of both ends of the spectrum, which is nice to offer to the players. And then we have to give a shout out to our friends north of the border. Obviously, they had a little bit of a tough day with the King's Plate, half the card or more than half the card being canceled. But we are going to roll back that profit boost up at Woodbine 15%, which is going to take place tomorrow on Friday. So be sure to try to support Woodbine as they try to get that King's Plate card now underway on Friday. And we're going to support them with this profit boost. And we have an Ellis Park leaderboard on Sunday as well, $2,500 as that meet winds down. I think it's the last chance for that $2,500 Sunday leaderboard contest. So be sure to be opted in for that. And don't forget, TwinSpires tournaments are here. They're here to stay. They're going to get better and better. Got a lot of good stuff coming up this particular week. We've got on Friday night for Charlestown Classic, we have a $300 cash contest there. And we have another NHC BCBC qualifier coming up on Saturday on the Ellis Park card as well. You're going to see these tournaments expand. Feeders are coming soon, more qualifiers, more cash tournaments. So a lot to look forward to for the tournament and contest players with us at TwinSpires.
And Darin, what else are you watching for this weekend?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. I think the pace dynamics of the Travers really fascinate me. Torpedo Anna drawing the inside. I think it does make it a bit interesting because obviously she's going to have to go forward coming out of the gate. What does Unmatched Wisdom do? There's been some talk that Chad Brown's got Sierra Leone, and Unmatched Wisdom is being entered in this race to speed things up. I think that's a little bit of a ridiculous take because I've never seen Seth Klarman put a horse in as a rabbit for a horse that somebody else owns in my life. And I think they think Unmatched Wisdom is pretty good. But how quick he is early remains to be seen. Being quick in an allowance and being quick in the curling where he had to be hustled out of the gate to get to the front. It's a little bit different than beating some of these to the front. Obviously, Fierceness is going to go forward. You have to figure Batten Down is going to go forward. And Torpedo Anna has to secure position from the rail. Sierra Leone, like we talked about before, I think he's going to get a good setup again. Can he run straight in the stretch? Anna Marie is such an interesting horse. Every time he runs, people find a speed scenario where they look at him and they say, all right, this is going to be the race where he could finally rally. And for me, he reminds me of a horse by the name of Dollar Bill, who back in 2001 always found trouble, always had way too much to do running in the Derby and the Preakness and other races. And he kind of has that look to me. I don't have a strong opinion on who I like in the race. I am against Dornoch. Where I end up, I don't exactly know just yet. I think it's a fascinating race. Probably one of the more competitive Travers from top to bottom that I've seen in quite a few years. Definitely looking forward to it. It's going to be a great day of racing.
I will say Honor Marie, was the wise guy pick in the Derby. Had a really, really troubled trip in that race and then has been on a 4-race losing streak. But adding blinkers, getting Tyler Gaffalione. So the variables are interesting there, but
I get it. I don't think this is the kind of horse where you put blinkers on him and he's suddenly going to show more speed. He is so slow in the early parts of the races that I don't think maybe it gets him more focused, but this is a horse that makes his own trouble because he's got one running style. He's always got to navigate his way in and out of weaving in and out of horses. If he ever jumps up and wins one of these races, I'm not saying he can't run third and round out a trifecta at a big number, but him passing the entire field is something I need to see happen first.
Yeah. Well, Nick, what are you watching out for?
Yeah, looking forward to Saturday's Pat O'Brien, which is the feature out at Del Mar. I'll be doing expert picks for the Del Mar card. It's race 9 on a 10-race program. Interesting bunch coming together. I know, Ashley, you have a lot of affinity for the Chosen Vron, who's going to be a pretty solid favorite here. And, it might be time for us to start to talk about the Chosen Vron as the best sprinter in the country. I wonder if he's really going to be able to hold that title come November 3rd or so. But up to this point, it's pretty tough to argue with his body of work. He was very good in the Bing Crosby last time out. And of course, we don't disrespect the Bing around these parts. So he certainly is a horse I think that we want to keep a close eye on. This will likely be his last stop before the Breeders' Cup. It's going to be run in his backyard, so to speak. It was last year, but hate to break it to everybody, but there is no Elite Power or Gunite out there to keep him honest. I think his big worries are horses that run by appointment only anyway. So looking forward to him squaring off with Raging Torrent. Doug O'Neill kind of hinted at potentially running Raging Torrent in New York a couple of times, opted against it. What we're seeing here is his win last out in the Maxfield. The horses finishing second and third there are World Record and Otto the Conqueror, both of whom will run in the Allen Jerkins earlier on Saturday. World Record, of course, came right back and won the Amsterdam, franked that form from the Maxfield a little bit. But when Raging Torrent's been on his game, and granted, his game has been at Churchill Downs, he's been very, very good. So it's a nice matchup between those two with speed. And then, of course, we have the horse that won the richest race in the world, Senor Buscador, back off a layoff. Very old school move by trainer Todd Fincher, running him at 7 furlongs off a layoff. I'm pretty sure Todd Fincher knows that he wants to go longer than that, but he wants to get him a start, likely before the California Crown in late September at Santa Anita. And this is a great spot to do so. I remember back in the day when people did this with frequency and they ran in races like the Hutchison to begin their 3-year-old campaigns at 7/8 and San Vicente as well. So interesting to have him back, of course. So this is a race I'm very much looking forward to and trying to figure out really if the Chosen Vron is a horse that we need to have firmly in the conversation for a potential Breeders' Cup Sprint favorite.
I'm with you, Nick. This is my horse to watch, the Chosen Vron. This is actually a Breeders' Cup winning year in for the Dirt Mile. He already punched his ticket to the Breeders' Cup Sprint with the Bing Crosby. You know, it's interesting, Senior Buscador faced the Chosen Vron in the 2022 Pat O'Brien. And this race, the Chosen Vron finished 5th in 2022, built an 8-win streak. That was snapped in the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year. Now he's on a 6-win streak, going for a 7th and his 6th win of the season. So I'm really curious. There's a lot of speed here too. You've got Senior Buscador as the lone closer. If the Chosen Vron doesn't win this race, you know, I won't feel as confident going into the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but I do think without elite power, as you mentioned, without Gunite, he's really going to be hard to beat. I know maybe Nakatomi is in the conversation as a late runner, and then Skelly, but Skelly hasn't proven himself outside of Oaklawn Park, in my opinion. So I'm still big on the Chosen Vron at Del Mar.
No, that's totally fair. I have no argument with it at all. I mean, look, it's a wide open division. And quite honestly, I would say that one of the 3-year-olds in the Alan Jerkins could have a big say in this division as well. I mean, Bookham Dano's been successful at 6 furlongs, so it would be no surprise. World record if he were to somehow jump up. I don't really like his chances on Saturday, but if he were to do so, then he comes into the conversation as well. So, no, where there's no star power and there might be a lot of parity in the division, that leads to some competitive races, and I think this should be one of them. But I'm hoping that we get the big shot from the Chosen Vron that we've seen of late and that we get it again on Breeders' Cup Day. That's the real worry, is he going to show up in his big objective? Because when it happened last year, he was a total no-show.
Well, you kind of heard about this. Our producer, Blaze, was trying to get me to agree to a bet on the Chosen Vron in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And the horse I'm nervous about is maybe Prince of Monaco if he wins this weekend. So I don't want to.
Yeah, I hear you. No, Blaze looked as if he was trying to use me to grab an advantage in a bet, and I told I'm going to let Blaze know that just because you call a sharp doesn't mean you're one. But I bet he's back there now. I bet he's back there now seething. I can't wait till we get offline.
All right. Well, I'm excited to see what happens this week, and that's all the time we have for the jury. We'll be back next Thursday with more best bets and fades. Thank you again, Nick, for joining us, and good luck betting this weekend.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to not being an alternate on the jury anymore. I'm earning my place.